doing $800 million a year. By the time I was 30, we turned it into $1.8 billion. I had this beautiful house on the intracoastal down there, the boats, the cars. All of a sudden, I'm in an 800 square foot apartment. It was very humbling. I had to start over. I burnt every bridge on the way down. Wasn't good enough just to lose it all. I literally burnt every bridge, every relationship, all the way to the ground. Nothing. I did not understand the difference between income and wealth. When it comes to wealth creation, truly creating a legacy and truly creating something that can live many generations after you, real estate's just naturally the go-to.
How does one get to 100 deals a month, 10,000 deals in a lifetime?
In order for you to be a great CEO, the hustler must die.
Yeah.
And the hustler is where we all start.
Having done it all, what is the best, or what is your favorite?
Today, the thing I'm most excited about that we're doing a lot of is...
What's up, wealth builders? Today, I've got one of the best real estate investors in the game. This guy is doing over 100 deals a month right now. He's done over 10,000 flips, wholesales, turnkeys, you name it. He's syndicating. He runs one of the largest masterminds in the country. Well, I shouldn't even say the largest, but like one of the most just intentional and high-level masterminds. I've got none other than Kent Clothier. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? Good to be here.
Yeah. Well, you're here speaking at WealthCon, man, so I appreciate you for that, dude. It means a lot to have you come out on stage. I actually have you leading off the event, so I want you to set the tone.
No pressure.
No pressure. I'm like, you know what? What can we throw at them to like wake them up in the morning? And it's like, well, I've done 10,000 deals, so listen up. That's kind of what I think is going to happen.
I love it. I love it, man. I'm happy to be here, happy to kick it off, and we will definitely wake them up. That's for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got to this point, because I mean, I just rattled off some crazy statistics, but how does one get to 100 deals a month, 10,000 deals in a lifetime?
Well, I mean, full transparency. Let me back up. I got into this business kind of out of necessity. I built another business. It became very large at a very young age, doing almost $2 billion a year by the time I was 30. Had a run-in with my partners and, kind of got run out of my own company, if you will.
What was that business?
It was a grocery arbitrage business.
Grocery arbitrage.
So we would buy and sell truckloads of groceries kind of on the gray market.
Okay.
General Foods would sell a truckload of Maxwell House coffee at a discount into like Kroger in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And rather than put it on the shelf, they would sell it to a guy like me out the back door and and we would go take it to some place where they weren't selling it at a discount. And, make that arbitrage. And so it was great business, loved it, got into a run-in with my partners, kind of got run out of the business, spent the next 2 years kind of suing each other and losing every dollar I'd ever built because I was so young and just so full of myself.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible experience, by the way. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but it was exactly what I needed. But it kind of put me into a box where I had nowhere to turn, man. I'm a product of one of those late night infomercials. 100%.
That's how you learned that business?
That's literally how I learned to wholesale. I basically went down to one of those free events.
Yeah.
West Palm Beach, Florida. I'll never forget it. And had a few $1,000s to my name at this point. Had millions literally 2 years before.
That's crazy. A $2 billion company. And
yeah. That business still runs today. It's still down there. It still crushes. Those guys are still doing amazing down there.
Wow.
Just not with me.
Do you mind sharing why it happened? Like, what was the dispute all about?
As it always is, it was over money. So these guys were amazing guys. They bought. So my father and I started the company when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And by the time I never went to college. So by the time I was 23, I was running a business that was doing $50 million a year. My dad backed out of it. By the time I was 26, it was doing about 100 million. 28, it was doing about 300 million. And these guys out of Florida came in and bought the company.
Oh.
And then they moved me down to Florida. And
so you were the sole owner with your dad starting out?
Yep. And then when they moved me down to Boca Raton, Florida from Memphis, Tennessee, they basically were like, here's the keys. Our whole thing, we're doing $800 million a year. And the reason we bought your company was for you. And okay. And so 28, doing $800 million a year. By the time I was 30, we turned it into $1.8 billion.
Wow.
And they were happy. I was happy. But as I said, I was, thank God social media did not exist back then because I was 100% that guy that we all make fun of online, right?
Yeah.
All of that success that it was all because of me, and all you had to do was ask me, right? I was that guy. I was not humble in the slightest. And so sure enough, I went back to them and said, hey, I want some of my equity back. And I will never forget it. March 14th of 2000, I walked in. I never even made it to my office. Had my briefcase slung over my shoulder. Hey, man, I'd like to talk to you about kind of getting some of my equity back. Whatever it is. And literally, I went in there trying to get like 1%. And they were like, oh, that'll never happen. And it just hit me wrong. And I'm like, are you asking me to resign right now? No. What are you talking about? Like, you know what? I'm out of here. Boom. I walked out the door.
Jeez.
Had never even thought about quitting 1 second.
Just emotionally.
Emotional.
Yeah.
And that started down a path that was not good. And we went, I started a competitive company to go toe to toe with them. Thought that was a great idea. And by the way, all those extra zeros that they have in their bank account, that I didn't have. I had a lot, but I didn't have as many as them.
Yeah.
And probably the single most valuable lesson that I learned there is that when people are suing each other, smart people, when they're suing you, they are literally, whether it's the government or anybody else, it is not about winning. It is about bleeding you to death.
Yeah.
That's the win. And I was so
they know they can outlast you.
Full of pride and ego that I did not understand fully what was going on. I was like the bad gambler at the table. Bring me another marker. Like just trying to buy my way out of it. Couldn't buy my way out of it. Ended up losing $4.5 million in 22 months.
Wow.
And that was it. I was done.
Wow.
Cried uncle. Should have filed for bankruptcy. Did not. Too much pride again, and paid off all the business debt personally. Wiped myself out.
Yeah. And
moved in with my girlfriend. I had this beautiful house on the intracoastal down there. The boats, the cars.
Everything.
And all of a sudden, I'm in a 800 square foot apartment.
Wow.
It was very humbling. And like I said, it just put me in a place where I had no choice. I had to start over. I burnt every bridge on the way down.
Wow.
Wasn't good enough just to lose it all. I literally burnt every bridge, every relationship, all the way to the ground. Nothing left. So went and saw one of late night infomercial. Went and ultimately ended up buying a course on wholesaling.
Yeah. What year was this?
2000, and this is December 2002.
That's crazy that like people were still talking about wholesaling then.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, back then, there was nothing like it is today. There was no technology.
No.
Did not exist. Wholesaling back then was door knocking and bandit signs.
Yeah.
That's what you did. But I kind of gravitated to it. Like I was like, this is kind of what I just did before. I was wholesaling groceries before.
Yeah. But I can get bigger checks.
Yeah. And so I was like, I think I can do this. And I was right. In 30 days, I flipped my first house, made $8,000. Quickly figured out that I was pretty good at it.
You also had so much business savvy already.
You got it. And that was a major turning point for me.
Yeah.
Because what had made me, going from 800 million to 1.8 billion in a couple of years, people ask me all the time, how'd you do that as a kid?
Yeah.
And I was just so naive that I wasn't afraid to, I wasn't in love with any process.
Yeah.
I was like, why do we do it this way? And so my logic inside of the grocery company was, rather than us, everybody's trying to sell the same thing. Because, back to that Maxwell House coffee, if Kroger called me, they also called 5 other guys. And so we're all fighting over the same truck to buy it. And then we're ultimately going to try to sell it to the same people. So it's a race to zero, right? That's just, I'm like, why don't we go ask every single customer, what do they want to buy? How much do they want to buy? When do they want us to deliver? What city? And then go work it backwards. And so I kind of did the same thing in real estate. When I decided to get really smart about it, I was like, why don't I just go find all the cash buyers, find out exactly who they are. So I would literally drive down to the county clerk's office, go find the deeds, go find the mortgages. If there was no mortgage, but there was a deed, I knew it was cash.
There was no technology.
There was no technology
to get the buyer's list. We can do it like this.
Built the buyer's list. And it's funny you say that because that's kind of how we got to this place. And then, inside of 3 years, we were wholesaling 300 houses a year.
Wow.
With no real technology. And then
Where was this at?
Down in South Florida.
Florida.
Broward, Dade, Palm Beach.
Okay.
And then quickly got a lot of attention from a lot of people because 2008 hits and market melts to the ground. And I'm kind of the only guy standing.
Wow.
Because I don't need all my buyers are cash.
Well, and also too, I mean, you're not sitting on actual real estate.
Not sitting on real estate.
You just wholesaling.
And, anybody that was wholesaling back then, they were, it was the wild, wild west, right? If you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan.
Yeah.
And so.
Dude, you could wholesale some crazy deals.
Oh, it was wild. We were getting $50,000 rips like it was
just
nothing.
normal.
Yeah. It was bizarre. But luckily, I was selling to cash buyers.
Yeah.
And so when the credit markets melted to the ground, it almost had no impact on me.
Wow.
And so I was kind of the last guy standing. And then a lot of people wanted to know what I was doing. Suddenly I was being asked to speak on stages. And
what year? This was right after the crash?
2009, 2010 kind of. And again, along the way, as the market started to come back, we started really turning the business into more of I started taking buyers from South Florida because it was super scary down in that market at that time, right? There were still people like, this is the epicenter of the meltdown.
Yeah.
The Big Short, literally when they go to,
yeah.
Right. And so I started taking some of my buyers back to Memphis, Tennessee.
Is that where you're from?
It's where I went to high school. I
Okay.
grew up in Dallas. But at my last 2 years of high school, I was in Memphis, and my father was still there. My brother was brothers.
Your dad had a business out there, right?
Well, it was that grocery business.
Oh, okay. So your dad had the grocery business out in Memphis. Got it.
So, but ironically, he was now, I had no idea, but he was now wholesaling houses back in Memphis.
So
we were not speaking at this time, right? My father and I at that moment were.
When he left the business.
Yep. We're not on great terms at that point.
Yeah.
Again, as fate would have it, I had no idea he was wholesaling houses, but
How did he get into it? Same
kind of the same thing, right? And
we wholesale groceries. We might as well.
He kind of had
houses.
the same epiphany that I did. Like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, next thing I know, I start bringing buyers into Memphis.
Yeah.
And people are buying cash flow properties. Now it turns into a turnkey thing, and one thing leads to another. And like you said, now that whole business, basically flips. A great month is 100, a bad month is probably 60.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 800 to 900 houses a year, pretty consistently for the last 15 years.
Wow.
Manages, when we turnkey them, we stay in place and manage it for them. So we manage 8,000 single family houses.
Wow.
And that's, and would still wholesale 400 or 500 a year. And
yeah.
Next thing, it turns into an education and business and all this other stuff that kind of spins out of it.
Wealth Builders, if you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month, or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes, or flip more homes, or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there. You got me thinking when you were talking about how the litigation basically drained you. And it made me think about what happened with the PGA and Live Golf. Mm-hmm. And it was like the PGA just finally caved in. They're like, these guys are just going to sue us to death and take all our players and outspend us, and there's nothing we can do about it.
That's exactly right. They got cornered.
Yeah.
And there's, it's what we call a pipe wrench deal. When we're negotiating deals, like at some point you just realize that your options are pretty limited here.
You're going to lose.
That's right. And that's kind of, I'm very grateful for everything that happened now. At the time I was not. But because I wouldn't be here today with you if it hadn't happened, right?
Yeah.
Everything good that has happened in my life has come after that. It really put me on a whole nother path because I'm very grateful that it happened at such a young age, right? To lose everything at 30, 32, and
rebuild
20 years later, that second phase of my life, I'm a better husband, better man, better leader. All the wisdom that gives you you can't buy that stuff.
Yeah. What was it? So were you married in your 30s?
Yeah.
Or no, I mean,
married my
20s?
high school sweetheart, and then we got divorced in all of this.
Okay.
And then got remarried, and my wife and I had two amazing daughters, 18 and 9. And like I said, everything, we live in La Jolla, California now, on the ocean. It's beautiful. We live our dream life.
It's a little better than Memphis.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's better than a lot of places.
Yeah.
Right? There's not many places like it. So I can tell you that, like I said, it made me much more intentional.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you get a second chance, you just do things a little different.
Yeah. So you go into this wholesale business. Obviously, now you're equipped with business savvy. You're probably one of the only wholesalers to run $1 billion business, right? Usually don't go from like $1 billion business to wholesaling.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting path. But, you came in at, this time where there was really not a lot of competition. Nobody knew about wholesaling. And you just established your mark quick and then never really let it go.
Right.
So how has it been just throughout these different, times? I mean, you hit the ground running, the market crashes, doesn't affect you. You go to Memphis. Now is most of the deals still in Memphis, still the same?
We're in 11 cities now.
Okay.
So I think one of the things you said that I think is really important is that we treat it like a business.
Yeah.
And, even today, most wholesalers, this is a hustle.
Yeah.
It is not a business, right? And I think that's a big mind shift. I think that's probably why we, as a family, as a unit, evolved the way we did, is that business acumen and looking at it okay, here's one way we can dispo properties through wholesaling. We can use turnkeys. We can do really looking at things through a business lens.
Yeah.
Versus just, let's bang it out and go make 10, 20, 30, 45, what's next? We just don't look at it that way.
Right.
Everything is measured. The metrics are measured. And so that has allowed us to evolve and become really good at what we do and grow into other cities. And it's been, it hasn't been always cupcakes and rainbows and sunshine, brother, but I can tell you,
yeah.
It has allowed us to be, we're playing the long game.
Yeah.
This will be here long after we're all gone.
Yeah. So I think about that, 100 deals a month. So, I mean, what kind of revenues are you guys driving doing that many deals?
I mean, our average deal, it's $200,000. We do, $20 million a month.
20 million a month.
Yeah.
So, and that's on the flip to the turnkey?
Yep.
Okay. And then, so what would the profit be on that? 10% margins?
Yeah. Our average, we're completely vertically integrated.
Yeah.
And, we make a healthy margin, a profit when we flip the deal.
Yep.
And then we stay in place to manage the deal.
Yep.
And so we're making a margin there. And then there's every place that we feel like we deserve the opportunity to make money in the transaction, we're going to try to own that part of the transaction. I was saying that I tell people all the time, when you do your transaction, what's the transaction you're creating from that? So if you think about a real estate deal, whether it's an appraiser, a realtor, an inspector, direct TV, we think about it, what is the entire life cycle of that customer, and can we be involved in that transaction and own that transaction? And so we don't have to make a ton of money on the actual flip itself. I mean, we make a healthy margin.
Yeah.
But we're not getting greedy.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at it over the lifetime value of the customer.
Right.
Our customers are going to be with us
They're going to buy more flips.
They're going to buy more of these. They're going to buy 4 or 5 a year from us for the next 10 years. And then, we're going to have the opportunity to rent their properties for years to come. I mean, there's plenty of meat on the bone if you look at it through a very different lens.
So you're looking at it from a totally different lens than the flipper would of we got to get, we got to maximize this opportunity because that's the only way we get paid.
And I will tell you, dude, if you think about it on the other side, what that does for you when you're trying to find deals, is
you can get thinner deals.
You got it.
Yeah.
I can afford to pay more to create a deal than most.
Yeah, because you don't need to make it on the flip.
That's right. Which makes me pretty lethal when it comes as a marketer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because the stuff that you have to say no to, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
And that's I would encourage everybody to do that, quite frankly. If you're not looking at your business through the lens of a lifetime value of a customer, I believe you're making a mistake. Because that whole life cycle, if you actually understand the number, what's the revenue I'm going to create in 90 days, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you go backwards. And so what's an acceptable rate of return over each one of those stages? Man, you'll find that instead of trying to make that short dollar, that quick bang, it'll allow you to go much deeper in your marketing.
Yeah, I remember, in Vegas, we got hit just like Florida in 2008. And I remember Blackstone came in and bought up everything at the auction, them and others. And I remember they were paying like 100% of value. And I'm sitting there like, the heck are these guys doing? Right. Why would they do that? You can't make money. And they're like, well, their lens is we're going to hold this for 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And we are going to make a ton of money.
Right.
And they did.
Yeah.
And so they basically priced everyone out of the market and just owned it. Because
that is a great example of it right there. And that is a great example. They knew the math.
Yeah.
And, guys like us didn't.
No.
We just didn't understand.
Well, even if we did know the math, we still couldn't execute
right.
it.
We didn't have we didn't have the pockets to get it done, but but it definitely makes you appreciate how powerful it is to know the math and have the money to do it.
Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs, if you want to grow your business, there is no better investment than your own personal brand. The smartest thing I ever did was start creating content and investing into my brand. Ever since then, we've been able to triple our business. I've been able to raise more money than ever to continue buying more real estate. And it's all because I create content just like this. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Ryan, how am I supposed to do it? I don't know where to start. I don't know who's going to edit it. I don't know even what kind of setup or camera or anything to do. Well, here's the thing. We can help you with all of that at Pineda Media. We have a podcast checklist that you can actually get for free at pinedamedia.com that's going to go over everything you need on starting a podcast. But to make matters even better, we'll actually edit your podcast for you. We'll repurpose it into short form clips like you see on my Instagram and my TikTok so that people will start seeing those clips and watching your podcast and in turn being customers or investors in your business. So if you want the one-stop solution where you can get everything done for you, plus get the education you need to grow your personal brand, then you need to go to pinedamedia.com and book a free call with our team. You can also go get that free podcast checklist and that training program absolutely free by just going there. So go check it out. Speaking of turnkey, right? So for those who don't know, turnkey is simply like what you're stating. You're going to go find a deal, get it fixed up and ready. And then instead of just selling it to an end buyer who's going to go live in it or whatever, you're selling it to an investor who's going to hold it as a rental. And you're also going to manage the property for them. And I assume if they want to sell it at some point, you would represent them on the sale.
Either that or we'll buy it back.
Or you'll buy it back,
yep.
Right? So it's like you're making money in so many different ways. And when you're making money in so many different ways, you don't necessarily have to get a flip margin type deal.
Right.
So does this model work? Because I've had people, talk about it, but, here in Vegas, turnkey just doesn't exist. And I think it's because we don't really cash flow
That's
or
it, right there.
Prices are too high. So it only works in certain markets, correct?
Basically works in we're an illustration, a great illustration of where it works, right? So we're in Memphis, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Little Rock, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Huntsville, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
A lot of Alabama.
Yep. So the price points, we can buy a house 150, 180, we can put 20, 30, whatever in it, maybe a little bit more, and we can sell it 250.
Right.
And we can get $2,500 a month in rent. And that
1% rule.
Yep. And that represents, when you go and put the debt in place and everything, that represents a great cash flowing property for somebody.
And they're putting 20% down.
Yep.
Yep.
A lot of people buy them out of their IRAs. A lot of people, there's, when you've got somebody that kind of checks all the boxes for you from a lending perspective and a management perspective. And
how are you finding buyers? Because now you're just opening it up to basically not your traditional cash buyers the way we think about them as flippers and wholesalers, but you just like mom and pops essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we market the same way we always have. I mean, it's easier now than it's ever been to find buyers. And what I mean by that is that, our company, going back to what I was telling you earlier, we were the very first data company called Find Cash Buyers Now, right?
Okay.
And so we created that, and then CoreLogic and others kind of started doing the thing, and then now we are today. Fast forward 15 years, like this stuff is just agnostic, and like everybody's got a way to go. But if you think about it, like just going and marketing to people that are paying cash right now, or marketing to anybody that's buying in your market right now, and that you can tell that they are an out-of-state buyer. They're clearly buying properties for investment, and marketing to them.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We are constantly peppering them through direct mail that.
Yeah.
Hey,
well, a lot of people don't market to buyers.
Yeah, but we do.
Yeah.
And we've never
That's a
stopped.
big difference.
And we never stop.
So you're just constantly building the buyer's pipeline because everyone else is just marketing to sellers.
We're doing both and complete. I mean, we spend a considerable amount of money.
What's your marketing budget right now?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in direct mail. Always been our best source.
For 15, 20 years, just direct mail.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's just because, look, if you want to be really good at something, be very, very consistent.
Yeah.
And be willing to do what others won't. And you and I both know, we've been around this business for a long time. The business is filled with people that are looking for the quick hit, the fastest return, et cetera. And they will easily get enamored with what is the next greatest way to go do leads.
Yeah.
1 week it's cold calling, next week it's texting, next week it's whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And I say it all the time, you can count on your competition's mediocrity.
Right.
They will stop. So if you just keep going, you almost always win. It may be longer than you want, but you will win. And that's just been what we've done. So we just don't stop. Buyers and sellers are just constantly marketing. And now we buy a considerable amount of houses from referrals and other wholesalers and realtors and pocket listings. We don't just generate our leads because we got to feed a machine, but we definitely always keep our foot in the water.
Yeah. So as somebody who has done every exit strategy, right? I mean, you flip, wholesale, turnkey, creative finance, right now we're doing a lot of novations. You're doing syndication. This is like what newbies always ask me, but I want to ask you, having done it all, what is the best or what is your favorite?
It's here's the way I'll say it. I love REI Nation, our business. I love that it's a family business. I love that we're considered the best at it.
REI Nation is your company that's
TurnKey.
doing TurnKey.
Yep. And I love but it's our active business, right? So when it comes to investing, it's something different for me, right?
Okay.
I own a lot of houses, clearly, in our portfolio, but I like stuff that there is no noise, right? I'm just at a place where I don't want to be, noise and dealing with tenants and getting all the, things that are just complex. Like, it just doesn't excite me. I just don't have the energy for it, and I just don't want to do it. And so right now, today, the thing I'm most excited about that we're doing a lot of is self-storage.
There definitely is no headache with tenants.
It is. I mean, just imagine a multifamily.
No repairs.
Multifamily property with none of the garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I get the same returns. It's priced the same way. It trades the same way. It's fairly simple. It's straightforward business. It is it's been a long time since I've been this excited about an asset class, right? And I've done a lot of them.
Why did it take you so long to get there?
I just didn't have the people around me that I trusted
To know it was legit.
right, to get me in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so, we were talking about it earlier, through my mastermind, I've just got some really, really quality guys over the last few years that have come in and that's their thing.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it. And it's made me comfortable to, start deploying capital that way. And now that I've gotten all behind the scenes with it, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
But isn't that crazy that a guy who's done so many deals, 20 years, like, it's recent that you're like, and it's not like this asset class is new. It's not like it's like crypto or something that just came out of, nowhere. It's like, storage has been around forever.
For a long time.
And people have talked about it and you've used it. And you're like
100%. And
it wasn't hidden.
It's so bizarre to me that, I think I've always been intrigued.
Yeah.
But just never put myself where I had an opportunity. And now I'm just like, oh my God, this is absolutely the most incredible asset class. And my business partners in it are, I would argue some of the best at it. And it's a really exciting thing for me to be involved in right now. The numbers are wild.
Yeah.
And then you've got, I love it when the REITs are coming in and, they want to consolidate as much as they can. And so if you can create value, it's very easy to identify on a balance sheet where you're like, wow, like we've really created some serious equity here. It's not hard to quantify, right? A little harder to quantify in single family.
Yeah.
It's basically what's sold to the left and right of you. That's it.
It's worth this.
But this is, this is what the cash flow is. This is what the NOI is. We know exactly what we've done.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. So before I got into flipping houses, I was flipping couches and furniture and everything. So that was my grocery side hustle. I wasn't doing it for $2 billion, but 2,000, right? And my business was run out of a storage unit. So like I had 4 storage units, 10 by 30s. I was 23 or 24 years old. Just kind of running this business. It was my first successful thing ever as an entrepreneur. I was making $8,000 a month. And I remember I signed the storage unit lease and it was like $150 a month, which was super cheap even then. But now it's like that.
Wait, is this here in Vegas?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's probably like $500 now.
Yeah.
So anyways, I ended up getting 4 of them because I just kept growing the business. But I remember I'd be walking through there every day and I still hadn't even flipped a house, but like in my mind, I was like, dude, this is the best business ever. They have literally 1 employee. They're renting out 300 units. I'm paying, $600 right now. That's just me.
Yeah.
And the rest of these are rented out. They had no freaking vacancy. I was just like, man, one day I want to own one of these. And I didn't know anything about real estate. I just was like, intuitively, this is such a cool thing.
100%.
Yeah.
I've the same way. Like, I don't know. I'm sure you do the same thing, but I've had that same kind of epiphany about business after business. Like anytime I walk into anything, I'm like, oh God, this would be a great business. Like I'm staying down at the Wynn and I'm looking around like, man, Jesus.
You guys are killing it.
To own something like this. And so I've done the same thing with storage. I sat around for years and looked at it and just never was comfortable that I understood enough about it to do it. And
well, you know what's crazy? Like as my career has evolved, my business career is very young still. I didn't get into business until 2015. And then really I didn't retire from baseball until 2017. So like being full-time focused on business has only been 6 years. And the more that I'm in business, real estate's how I got my start. And then, I branched off into doing social media and other industries and things. And it's like, man, you can definitely make like way quicker money in other things. Real estate's very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate also requires a lot of capital, unlike other industries, whether it's education, whether it's, quick things like the grocery thing you're doing. The cash conversion is just way faster.
Yeah.
And what I've come to the conclusion is, I went like gung-ho on real estate, made me a millionaire, go into other industries, they make me great money. But then I realize everything just always reverts back to real estate. And what I mean by that is storage is a business, but at the end of the day, it's real estate.
Mm-hmm.
The Wynn, like you just mentioned, it's a business, but at the end of the day, they have prime real estate. I've become super avid into golfing, and I've joined country clubs. Guess what? I'm buying into like real estate, into those country clubs, and the real estate's valuable because of the club and the business around it. And I've been thinking like, man, one day I want to own a golf course, and like, what am I doing? I'm looking for real estate to go do this thing. So it's like, man, you just literally can never escape real estate for what you're going to do.
Well, and the thing that along those same lines that I never identified with, when I was coming up in my first go around, I did not understand the difference between income and wealth. I thought I was rich, right? Because I was making several $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And really what I was a high income earner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got, probably even the last, I would say maybe the last 15 years that I really have started to understand the difference. And when it comes to wealth creation and, truly creating a legacy and truly creating, something that can live, many generations after you, real estate's just, naturally the go-to, right? Because it's just, for one reason or another, it's always at the center of all of that same kind of thing. It's at the center of the discussion. Like it's not impossible, but it would certainly be much more challenging to create significant wealth without real estate being a part of it.
Yeah.
From a leverage standpoint.
Yeah. The financing you can get, the ability to go raise money for it's like, dude, this is real estate. Oh, okay. I get that.
Everybody understands it.
Yeah. So everything about it just makes it that way. But like I got the Vegas Strip in my background. And if you look at some of these, it's like they're going to get rid of some of these. In fact, like the Oakland A's are moving here. Yep. My alma mater who drafted me. And they're going to tear down the Tropicana Casino.
Yep.
And it's like, man, the Tropicana as a business is done. But that real estate is now being repurposed.
Think about that.
Into such a bigger opportunity. Yep. And like when I think about stocks, when I think about even my businesses, it's like odds are like it's not going to last forever. Like it's going to change and adapt. But the real estate you own, I mean, it will always be there. Nobody can take the land away. It is what it is. The building might change, but even the building changing is rare. Like to tear down the Tropicana is a rare thing. It's just going to be updated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I live to your point, so I live in a really nice area of San Diego called La Jolla. And, there's only so many lots that are on the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, there's none that haven't been built on. And I've watched them in the last, I don't know, probably 8 months, watched a guy buy a $12 million house and tear it down.
That's crazy.
I was just like, wow. Like
that's some serious wealth.
So to your point, right? The real estate, I don't know what the guy originally, had that house on there for, but back in the day, but he probably built let's just say 20 years ago it was $2 million, right?
Yeah.
And then you think you're crushing it because you just sold it for 12 million and you're cash. And then this guy's like, let me tell you what I think of it. I'm putting it to the ground.
I'm going to build a 40 million.
I'm going to put another 10 million in it, and I'm going to have 22 million in this thing. And to your point, it's going to be worth 30 or 40 when I'm done. And you're just like, man, there's always a way for somebody to. I have a good friend of mine in that same neighborhood. His rehabs, he does these multi-million-dollar rehabs. Right? Yeah, because you can't buy anything in there for anything less than probably $5 million, and so he'll buy basically what you and I would pay $500,000, what you would buy for $500,000 in Vegas right now and do a rehab on.
Yeah.
Okay. Think of it like that.
Okay.
It's $5 million because it's on the water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he'll put, like he just did this. He bought one for $5 million. He put $4 million in it.
Whoa.
And turned around and Sold it for 14.
It's a good day.
And I'm like, it's just zeros, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like to your point, just real estate. Like if you can you can wrap your mind around the math and you can set up the financing. I'm like, there's always a way to make
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of money in this industry.
Well, we were talking earlier about this Four Seasons that they're building out here in Vegas, and I own 2 acres right next door to it,
Oh, wow.
and so I bought these 2 acres during COVID for $600,000.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I was gonna build my dream home on it. It's literally at the peak of the mountain, and right now I've got it listed for $6.5 million, and I've just sat on it. I haven't.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Good
it's just
for you, dude.
it's just real estate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a buddy here. It's the same thing. A friend of ours, right? And he lives up there. What is that? Summerlin right there?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, Summerlin's west.
well,
where
so
where that Four Seasons is McDonald Highlands.
Okay.
Four
yeah.
Seasons.
And so he, same kind of thing. Bought his house, turned around. Market was going great. Decided to sell it, but then decided he didn't want to move out of it, so he leased it back. And then I basically bought it again. I mean, he's traded this one house 3 or 4. I'm just like, and it's just when you can catch. Look, it's really hard to lose money in real estate if you don't sell.
Yeah, it is. You can
Right.
lose on flips for
Yep.
sure.
If you have the means
yeah,
and the stomach
yeah,
to hold it, that's the beauty of it, right? The cycle will turn.
yeah,
You know it's going to happen. And when it's on the swing back up, man, those swings. For me personally, I've gone through this now 2 or 3 times. These swings now seem to be harder and shorter.
yeah. Like
than they've
this
ever been.
This last, it sucked, but it was like 7-8 months, and
Yeah.
then now we're back.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And it's like that was our reset.
It's dramatic and it's painful, but it's nowhere near like what
08 was 2
God.
years, 3 years, and then the recovery was another 2 years. Like it was slow, very
Yeah,
slow.
It was brutal.
Yeah,
And I think that's which is kind of exciting because you're not trying to time anything, but you at least understand that if time is compressing,
yeah,
then your ability to hold and just stomach through some stuff,
yeah.
you should be able to do this.
Yeah, no, 100%. What's interesting is, before off camera, we were talking about how you raised some money for the Four Seasons deal, and you're going to help it go vertical and everything. And I'm just thinking, like, man, okay, that mountain right next to mine has just been sitting there since the beginning of time.
Right.
Like nobody has touched it. And I was trying to wrap my head around that, and I was like, man, dude, however old do you think the Earth is? It's been sitting there at least thousands of years, maybe billions, whatever, and nobody has ever built on it.
Yeah.
And then the fact that somebody came along and was like, I have this vision to build this tower. It's going to be ultra luxury condos. I'm going to sell these things for $5 million a piece minimum and just build this. And then I love that aspect of real estate, because I love fixing and flipping. It's great. It's like, all right, whatever's there is there, and let's do our best to make it what we can. But I'm so creative that when I see that gets me excited.
I'm with you. I have such a deep respect for people that do that have that vision.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do it, but man, so we partnered with a developer we're part of the group that's building the Montage and Pendry out in Palm Springs. And this guy, Robert Green, is the developer. This is all he's done for his whole life.
Yeah.
And God, I just look at him. I'm like, man, this guy just looks at a piece of dirt.
He's like, this is what we're about to do.
And he's like, I'm just going to make some, I'm going to build a golf course. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
I love it.
And you're just like, the vision and the guts that takes.
And then to go sell it.
Several $100 million he's had to raise, right?
Yeah.
This is not a little thing.
Yeah.
It is wild.
Yeah.
What that takes. I have such a deep respect for that. There's this place down in the panhandle of Florida, basically straight down Tennessee, Alabama, right there. And it's called Alice Beach. There you got Rosemary Beach, Destin, Florida. It's all kind of up in this some of the most beautiful beaches. And there's this guy that bought, I don't know, maybe it was 800 acres, oceanfront down there.
Jeez.
And he built, you got to take your wife. It's called Alice Beach, ALYS. He built the most iconic, beautiful thing, development I've ever seen. Right?
Yeah.
Where it
in
looks,
Alabama.
It looks like you're in the Mediterranean.
Wow.
It looks like you're in, Morocco or whatever, it's just
I've heard
stunning.
Alabama's like got nice beaches, but I just think of Alabama and I'm like,
Well, this is
what?
Florida, but yeah, you
Yeah.
drive through Alabama to get to it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's unbelievable. And,
Yeah.
and these houses sell for $5-10 million.
Yeah.
But to just look at scrubland, I'm talking like this is swamp, literally.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I got some swamp, like it was swamp, and he turned it into. It blows me away that people can do that.
Yeah. No, it's nuts.
And to your, what made me think of it when you were just saying that, like, and that you can sell it to somebody.
Yeah, the fact that you can have the vision, sure, but now you got to sell it to investors to go fund this thing. Then you got to go sell it to the end buyers who believe that you're going to actually execute this thing. That's why I'm like,
And then it may take
10 years,
20 years for it all.
Yeah.
For you to full build out, your vision. You may never live to see it.
Yeah.
If you're a 60-year-old guy, who knows if you'll actually see it all come to. I hope you do, but man,
Yeah.
it's really, like I said, very admirable.
Yeah, there's a community out here in Vegas next to what we're talking about called Ascaya. And I think they started like 10 years ago. And, they bought it at the completely wrong. Well, actually, it was more than 10 years ago because they bought it, I think, before the crash. And then it crashed. And so, like, they basically had this giant empty thing that they had paid so much money for. And I think it was Chinese money. I'm not sure. But anyways, like, it's been just like a slow grind for them to like do it. But houses are now popping up. It's literally prime real estate. It's great. And, it's just like the best strip views and everything else. But their only problem is, and I think this is why they're not selling, is like they're in an ultra premium community, but they don't have a golf course.
Oh, wow.
And it's like,
So they're demanding the price without the amenities.
correct. Their amenities suck. That's what it comes down to. But like the houses are beautiful, the views are beautiful, but it's like they're next door to McDonald Highlands, where it's like, well, I could still get all
So
that.
the buyer has a choice.
Yeah, there's choices.
Yeah, if the buyer doesn't have a choice, it's fine. But if
Yeah.
the buyer has a choice, that's a problem.
And that's why one is, thriving so much than the other.
Yeah, makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah. But they're still, from what I can see, they're still selling. It's just, it's going to take,
You got guys
Another-
like me that
they don't care.
I could care less.
Yeah.
Like, I've literally bought, when I was in Florida, I bought the last home I lived in was in a golf course or was in a golf community, and I don't play golf.
Yeah. but you bought
But
it.
I
'cause
bought it because of the
community-
real estate, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I know what the value of all this is. I'm not buying for me. I'm buying for the next buyer.
Yeah.
But there are for sure the people out there that care less about that. But it would be definitely advantageous if you had the amenities
Yeah.
that people actually want.
Yeah. So I was actually, I was with Cardone a couple of months ago and we were talking about development. I was like, Grant, why don't you do development? And he was like, dude, development's like the riskiest thing you can do. He's like, the developers want to be me because he's the one who buys the developer's product.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You agree?
I do agree with that. I think the developers take a tremendous amount of risk. Now they are certainly
More risk than flipping.
well, I'll put it to you this way: if it's one thing if you're the developer and you're selling to somebody like Cardone, it's a whole other thing that if you're effectively building your own inventory. If you're building, if you're the developer and you're building for your own portfolio, which a lot of these companies
Like
are
build to rent.
yeah, that's what they're doing it now, right?
Yeah.
They have to. I've got a good friend, Bobby Castro. I know he's doing that now, and I think that again, I think they do want to be him. If they could figure out how to actually line up the financing and hold it, and it was part of their business plan, they would do it. And those that are smart, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because
I'll let you take all the risk. I'll buy your beautiful thing. And I will assume no risk essentially.
well, that plays to his. He has risk for sure.
Yeah.
But, I know in his own mind and in his models that he feels like he doesn't. But, anybody can overpay,
Yeah.
right? Anybody can overpay.
Yeah.
But at some level, it really depends on what the returns are that you're promising your investors. What's your debt, what's your cap stack look like? Look, if all your cost structure is in place, then it's hard to buy and lose, right?
Yeah.
Because you understand all the operating costs and things that are going to take you out. But it's nowhere near the risk of
developing that thing. Yeah.
I mean, that thing, as we have both seen, the only thing developers have going for them now, which I think is very unique right now, is, man, we are in a massive, massive housing shortage.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the right areas where there's demand,
yeah,
and there's no way to address it,
yeah,
and you can control cost. I would argue that those types of situations, it's a little bit less risky.
Yeah.
If you're Miami and
you got multiple exit strategies at the end of the day, right? Yeah. It's like, all right, we built this with the intent to sell these things off, but we can just rent them. It'll still cash flow and be fine.
Yeah.
I think about like Vegas has had some big flops with, developers. Like I was talking about the one Ascaya that's kind of been a flop, but City Center, with Aria and Cosmo and all that stuff, like that was a giant nightmare that got started before the crash, and then like it just was nothing for so long, and the original developers, basically lost everything, and then somebody else picked it up, it got finished, and now it's a great thing. But it's like, to Cardone's point, it's like, man, that took 20 years. Whoever buys Aria now, Blackstone,
right?
I think Blackstone just bought the Cosmo. I can't remember.
It's the Cosmo.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they're happy to buy this thing that's already done.
Performing asset.
It's a great performing asset. They don't need to do any value add. Just chill.
I mean, but that's why, I tell people, that I work with when they're trying to sell their company or sell their assets or whatever, that, the more of the risk, the closer you get it to a proven thing, whether that's business or real estate, cash flowing, whatever, the more somebody's willing to compress their margins and pay a premium.
Yeah. When you eliminate the risk.
Because it's just like, okay, well, you know what? Somebody like Blackstone, okay, well, we're paying a premium, but this is we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
We'll sit here and, it may not make back to our point earlier, it may not make complete financial sense to you guys, but we're buying this is a 50-year investment for us.
Yeah.
We're playing a different game.
Yeah.
And, we've got to pay a 3% pref to our investors, right? And then we split 2 and 20. So we got cheap money and we have to deploy it.
Yep.
And that's just, the more risk you take off the table, the more, and that's kind of back to Grant's point, like most of the risk has been removed for him. I mean,
there's always
you
risk.
Can still get hurt, but he's put himself in a situation where, with the types of properties he's buying also, it's, his upside may not be great, but if he's playing a 10, 20, 30-year game,
he's going to win.
He'll win.
Yeah.
He will for sure win.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about, the average investor, or even guys like us who, we're not Blackstone, right? We can't afford to just buy $100 million buildings that were already done and have we can, but like it's harder to raise the capital that way. And like, you got to reach a certain level to like, I guess, earn that right. And so I think most of us start with value add. I know I have with house flips, and even our first apartments we've bought have all been extreme value add.
Right.
Do you think that is the way for investors to start?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, nobody's going to go give, you went out and just tried to go and take down a $5 million property and you've never done a deal. The likelihood of somebody giving you that money is really low.
Yeah.
So you got to work your way up, and the only way to work your way up is you got to buy stuff at a discount, where you and your investors have the opportunity to get some kind of quick hit or reasonable return and kind of build that momentum. I think that I just don't see any alternative.
Right.
I mean, we've both gone down that same journey.
Yeah.
And sooner rather than later, you kind of earn a seat at the table where you get to have bigger conversations with bigger people and bigger players, and
yeah,
they want you to be a part of their deals.
Yeah.
And And that's when it starts to change.
So let's talk about that. You know, you have your mastermind, the boardroom, and you know, you've got 200 plus members who are all, you know, very high level people. And one thing you were sharing with me just now off camera was like, yeah, you know, obviously the education business is great as a standalone business and it makes, you know, millions. But at the end of the day, because I have the right people, I get deal flow on both ends. I got people who want to invest. I got people who got deals, and I become the connector of the two. And it's just a beautiful thing. And so I would imagine that what you make from the mastermind is far more than what you get paid to, you know, be the owner of the mastermind.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. The, you know, my personal experience has been that, you know, I'm a different guy in my 50s than I was in my 20s, right?
Yeah.
So you think about different things, and you know, creating significant wealth and legacy and, you know, generational wealth is a major component for me for the last 10 years, and so having people that I love and trust that will bring me deals, and they're great operators, and I know exactly who they are, and I know their business inside and out, and our you know, our motivations are aligned, and then me being able to play to my strength, and I can get the capital.
Yep.
That's a cool situation to be in, man. I mean, and it kind of fits my MO right now.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, you know, 20 years ago, if I'd want to invest and hold, you know, as many assets as we hold today. It just wasn't something that was.
How many assets do you guys hold today?
Hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah. I mean, it's significant.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just a really cool place. Like I was saying earlier, it's a cool place to be able to pick and choose. And does this fit? Is it in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish personally?
Right.
And is it in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish on behalf of my investors?
Right.
And where most people are struggling to find those deals, that's just not a challenge that we're having right now.
Right.
Knock on wood, but we're not today, right?
Yeah. So tell me about that. I mean, we're talking a lot about the different decades of your life, you know, the 20s and, you know, the massive success, but the massive pride and arrogance, and that led to the downfall. And then the 30s were about kind of rebuilding and this new thing. How has decade to decade played for you? Like, what have been the lessons?
You know, as we talked about earlier, the 20s, I was a machine. I was the guy that totally conned myself and told myself and told my wife that I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for my kids. You know, first one in the office, last one to leave.
Yeah.
Leave for the gym at 5 a.m., sitting at my desk by 6:30. Don't get home till 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Never getting off my laptop. Go, traveling like crazy. Build. And then justifying all that with, I'm doing it for you.
I don't ever see you, but I'm doing it for you.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so grateful for what happened, because that was a major wake-up call that I needed at that time of my life. So my 30s, as it relates to business, was much more about building my confidence back, man. Getting some momentum, like feeling like I could actually get back on top, you know, and not having any answers, not really like just trying not to be broke.
Yeah.
And then, you know, moving in.
At what point in your 30s do you feel like you accomplished that?
I was probably, you know, I lost everything by 32. I would say by 35, I was quite confident that I knew I would never be broke.
Yeah.
In other words, I did not own a business.
Yeah.
But I sure knew I could go make money.
You knew how to hustle and wholesale.
Yeah, I knew I could make money.
Yeah.
And, you know, then the key became, I was on a path to make the same mistakes, because now I'm newly married and I got a little girl on the way, and I want to be with her. I wasn't around when my son was born. I mean, I was around, but I wasn't as present a father as you know, it's a major regret in my life.
Yeah.
But, as far as he's concerned, I was the greatest dad ever. He didn't know any different. But to me, as I got older, I know I could have done that better.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to make that mistake with a new one on the way. And so I became super diligent and passionate about putting systems and processes and leverage and automation and technology. And like I said, I was telling earlier, like we were some of the first people to bring that kind of stuff into the industry because we were treating our business like a business. And at the core of that was I didn't want to be away from my kids. And that was literally the motivation. Like if I'm trading hours for dollars, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the same mistake.
That's literally why I wrote, my book, The Wealthy Way. It's why the podcast exists. It's to show, hopefully through my life as an example of like, no, you can be successful, but still be a great dad, still be a great spouse, still be faithful. Like but to your point, you have to build a business.
Yeah.
Because if you are the business and you're the hustler, then you will feel.
It is the motivation to build and scale a business.
Yes.
Right. To get out of the hustle. Right. And the irony of building a great business and being a great leader, which I know you are, and I know you will appreciate this, is in order for you to be a great CEO, the hustler must die. Yeah. And the hustler is where we all start.
Yeah, you have to.
Right? And you're talking about flipping couches and everything else. And at some point, you just kind of come to, even when you're flipping houses, you kind of come to this point that, this is going to take people, leverage, other money, systems, nice office, all this stuff going on, lead generation. And that can't be me.
No.
Right? If I want to be a great, leader, a great husband, great father, and be present for my kids, like I take a lot of pride, man, that my office is 2,000 feet from my house. And I walk my little 9-year-old to elementary school every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, things that I'm just very intentional now when it comes to time. So you asked me moving from decade to decade, my 30s was just kind of getting my confidence back. 40s was really settling into the dad and the leader and the husband and and the son. Like you'll know soon enough. Like it's pretty wild what happens in your 40s, or at least was for me and a lot of my friends. Like you have a tendency to just kind of now own it. Like you just don't really care what anybody thinks.
You're like I am who I am.
I got it. Like I'm not here to impress anybody. I don't care, and I'll say whatever I want to say. I'll do whatever I want to do, and I'm very confident that I don't have all the answers. Yeah, and I won't pretend that I do. Yeah, and you spend your 20s and 30s trying to do some of that stuff. And in your 40s, you just kind of own it, man. And then it's amazing when you kind of get to that space. At least for me, that's when it exploded, just took off, because you just kind of walk a little different, talk a little different. You're just kind of, like I said, just like I am who I say I am. I'm good enough, and then it kind of starts flipping into, okay, well now I'm going to. I say this all the time. Like, I was talking to Pace and and Jamil and these guys over the course of the last couple of years. Like, I've earned the right to be where I'm at. And like when you say that, like I've earned, I worked really hard to get to this place where now for me to have these conversations about deals, and go get this, like you don't just get here. You got to earn the right to be here, and that's kind of where I'm at now. Where I'm just like, man, this is kind of cool that I'm here where I actually get to do something I really, really love to do that I would do for free. Yeah.
That's funny. I was talking with a 19-year-old kid last night at one of our first parties for the event, and he asked me this generic question that 19-year-olds always ask, and I was like, I didn't go off on him, but I was just like, why do 19-year-olds always ask that question? It's just so dumb. It's like such a teenage question. And the question is, Ryan, if you were 19, what would you go back and tell yourself? And I was like, bro, well, first off, I was trying to play pro baseball. Are you trying to play pro baseball?
I would tell myself, don't ask this dumb question.
Yeah, that's basically what I said. I was like, bro, are you trying to play pro baseball right now? Because I would be talking to the guy who was just trying to do that. Right. And like, I would have just told myself, just keep doing what you're doing. Work hard, freaking get coaching, keep grinding it out, eat right, do all the things that you're doing. Right. Right. I wouldn't have been like, just get into real estate now. Screw the whole baseball thing. It's not going to work out.
Right. Like, I've been like, hey, let me show you how to flip groceries.
Yeah. So I was like, Also, number two, I have no context to who you are, what you want to do, what you've currently done. So like, it's such a dumb question.
Right.
Because my 19-year-old self was way different than yours.
100%.
So I was like, never, ever ask that question again. And if anyone is listening to this and you're in your 20s or whatever, don't ask that dumb question. Okay. So I go, the proper question is you first give context to whoever it is you're trying to learn from. You know, we already have context. So like, I don't have to like repeat what I've done. And so if I asked you, hey, how has the evolution been in your 30s? It's because you know that I'm in a similar boat to where you were. And so it's like, man, I can learn a lot from the mistakes he made, the successes he made, and, you know, all that. But I was like, first get context with somebody because they don't know who you are, number one. Number two, ask a very strategic question that is relevant to you and what you are trying to do. So for me, when I'm asking you questions, I'm like, dude, so tell me about this mastermind and what, like, because it's already strategically going through my head, like, okay, what could I be doing differently so I can get more deal flow through all of the things I'm doing, right? I'm like, all right, why is he doing turnkey? I can't do it here in Vegas. Okay, you're in these markets. That makes sense why you think that
100%.
way. So like I'm asking strategic questions. It's entertaining on the podcast, but I'm truly asking for me.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
So everything is very strategic. And so I just told him, I go, bro, you know, knowing that, now what will you ask me? And so like, and that took way longer for me to explain to him why he needed to think that way. But he goes, okay, so, you know, I'm thinking about doing social media to build my brand. And I go, well, here's the thing, dude. Like, you have not earned the right to talk about anything on social media. You haven't done anything. Why would I listen to you?
Right.
And I was like, now there's a difference if you want to create social media as a content creator. That is your niche that you are trying, like you want to be Mr. Beast, go make freaking entertaining videos. You want to, you know, go do whatever. It's like, but you're not going to be a business content creator. You have nothing to say.
Right.
You have to earn the right to have people listen to you.
That's good advice, dude. That was really good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But you made me think of it because you're like, I have earned the right to have my mastermind, to raise this capital. You know, there's just no other way around it. You got to work your way through flipping couches and flipping groceries.
100%.
And doing all this crap.
And I mean, and unfortunately, as much as you and I operate from that place and understand that and respect it and operate with integrity that way, right? Mm-hmm. So I've always, you know, liked what you're putting out there and what you share, and I know you've built an amazing tribe. Unfortunately, there are people out there that it's just they, you know, take your 19-year-old example, they haven't earned the right, but hasn't prevented them from confusing the marketplace and giving advice. And unfortunately, some people listen to it. Look, you know, if you want to do stuff, you know, you want to go out there and put out, bring value. And the only way to, in my opinion, the only way to bring value is to share your own experience. So if I don't have the experience, I have no business talking about it.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I was like, you know, if you're trying to be in business and you have nothing of value that you've done, then it's going to be very difficult to add value, right? It's like, well, what if I interview successful business people? I go, you can totally do that, but you're not a business person still. You're a content creator. You're a podcast host who happens to interview successful people.
Right.
Like, but they ain't coming for you and anything you're saying.
Right.
So, you know, it's this interesting thing that I've been kind of having revelation on as I have watched, you know, this new way. Social media is obviously like growing and becoming even more of an important thing in our life. And, dude, you know what's funny? I actually just remember this. I went to my first Collective Genius. It was in San Diego. It might have been at the end of 2019, early 2020. And I actually met you for the first time. I don't know if you remember. We were eating at, where were we eating? It was like on the lake, or not on the lake, on the ocean. Maybe it was like Buddy V's or something.
Eddie V's.
Yeah. And, you know, it was a bunch of CG members. So they invited me. I'm like, all right, cool.
We're sitting out on the patio.
Yep.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. And I remember you said this. They were like, Kent, you're on TikTok right now. Like, why are you on TikTok, dude? And you're like, these kids are the future, man. Like, yeah, they're not buying anything today, but they're going to as time goes on. And I had not started TikTok yet. And I had just had, my friend Kong telling me to get on TikTok. You had just said it. I was like, man, dude, smart people are getting on, like, maybe I should do this. And then sure enough, like, it exploded.
Dude, you blew up.
Yeah. And I was like, man, dude, like it literally all happened within that same time frame. But, it made me think, like, when I look at social media and the successful entrepreneurs who are on there, most, number one, have been doing it a really long time, way longer than you think. I mean, you've been on social media how long?
Since 2009.
2009. So you've been doing it for 14 years, like putting your face out there, putting out content, showing who you are. And during that time too, you had already built, an amazing business and everything. Then, I was like, I was telling it, this is actually the conversation I had with a 19-year-old kid. I was like, bro, how long did Gary Vee been online? How long was he doing business before? Like 10 plus years. You know how long Patrick Bet-David's been doing valuetainment? Like 8+ years. You know how long, Cardone's been on social media? Like 15+ years. He's been on from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I go, even guys like Hormozy, who I've had on the show and speak on the event, it's like he was making content a long time ago. And I go, if you just look at it, I mean, he's even said he started his podcast like 2017. He didn't just blow up out of nowhere. Yeah. Like he's been doing it. But what changed? Well, I think he probably put more intentionality on social media later on, but also his resume changed. He sold his company and made $50 million.
100%.
So now he's taken way more seriously.
Credibility.
Yeah.
That comes with that.
Patrick just sold his business for $200 million plus. And Patrick is now reaching a new level. Grant acquires $1 billion plus of real estate.
That's right.
It's like the more success you achieve, not in social media, but in the business that you have, it translates into people listening more.
There's no doubt. It just echoes what we're talking about. Like you've earned the right to now to get that audience, right?
Yeah.
Like in other words, you should get, if you've accomplished that, and to your point with Hormozy, like now you're being super intentional with the content, like you deserve to grow a massive audience.
Yeah.
You deserve to impact people. You should impact people.
Yeah.
People should listen to you.
Yeah.
Because you actually know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not just some entertaining content guy.
Right. Like it's very, very valuable what you're doing. And so I completely agree. It's actually interesting you pointed that out, that, the same with Cardone, the same with, Alex, the same with all of them. Like we've all been putting content out for a long
Look
time.
at Ed Milet. He spoke at your event that I spoke at. I mean, dude's been on doing content for a long time, but he has the business credibility
100%
to back it up.
And, a friend of mine, Bobby Castro, I don't even know if it was on social media 2 years ago, but his resume, you go sell a business for $1 billion. And
what was his business?
He had a medical finance company. I may butcher his story a little bit, but I think I'm close. Medical finance company. He sold it for him and his wife. She's amazing as well, Sophia. Sold it for $1 billion, and then along the way, the entire way he was buying multifamily.
Got it.
And so now, God, I mean, he might have 10,000 doors now. I mean, he might have I think he does now. I think he's got $1 billion portfolio.
Wow.
With no investors.
He owns it.
He owns it.
Dang.
Him and his wife and his family.
To put that in perspective, that's like owning $6 billion of real estate for what you would normally hear.
Yeah, he is and is just an amazing guy. And then I think through Dan Fleischman and several others, and kind of started running in some different circles, some people convinced him that he should, like, you're an interesting guy. Not only are you interesting, but your story is wildly inspiring. And so
I gotta get him on the podcast.
I'll introduce you. And so now he's blowing up on social media, as he should.
As he's deserved it.
You deserve it. You've earned the right, baby.
Yeah. And that's I don't want to discourage anyone who's in business from getting on social, because it's definitely worth it, right? Like, being known is very worth it. You're just not going to get 1 million followers. Like, that's just...
Well, to echo your point, let's go back to your 19-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Share your journey from a 19-year-old's perspective that's just starting out in the business, like almost like a vlog. Like,
Yeah.
This is what it actually looks like to
Yeah.
build a business.
Yep.
And that's
enough.
That's enough.
Yep.
That is a super valuable thing to some 15-year-old, 16-year-old, because that's going to be their journey. And
Well, and also too, like, it is like when I first started social media, I mean, I really put intentionality behind it during COVID, but I was posting on Facebook and stuff back in 2016, 2017, nothing crazy, like a post a week, but I would just document what I was doing, flipping houses. I'm like, yeah, I just flipped this house. It was like my 10th deal. And I would just post about it and I'd be like, it was cool. This is what we did. Here's the before and afters. I wasn't selling a mastermind. I wasn't doing any of that stuff, but I was posting it because number one, like you said, it can bring inspiration to other people. But number two, it got me investors. It got
100%.
me deal flow. So it was worth it. Did I have 1 million followers? No, I had a couple thousand Facebook friends.
right.
And even today, you don't need millions of followers or even hundreds of thousands to like make it worth it. You could have, a couple thousand followers on Instagram and you raise $1 million.
Oh yeah, for sure. And my own journey, I can't even tell you, this still happens to me all the time where people are like, I've been following you for 5 years, like, and never transacted, but today's the day.
Yeah.
Like, I want to invest with you.
Yeah.
My wife and I want to put, a couple $100,000 in your fund. Like, 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
you don't, and I mean, when I tell you it happens all the time, it happens, like multiple times a month. I'll get that comment like, oh yeah, I started following you back in 2010 or two.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know if it's ever, what's going to happen. So yeah, for sure, put content out because you're building a relationship with somebody, but don't be looking.
You weren't the guy you are today in 2009 when you're creating content.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, back then I owned a company, I started a company 1-800-SELL now. I mean, I was more, the stuff I was putting out was much more in line with lead generation than it was even about the real estate business.
Yeah.
And so I look back and you're just like, wow.
I heard Gary Vee say this, and he has, once again, the authority to speak. And he was like, yeah, your 20s, you're just freaking working and you're hustling and you're figuring things out. Your 30s, you start to refine it. You're like, okay, this is what I am. This is what I'm getting good at. And that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, this is what I am. I am a social media guy. I'm a real estate guy. In my 20s, I didn't know, I was like, I'm a baseball player. I'm thinking about flipping houses. Now I'm like refining what I am. And then, you kind of mentioned in your 40s, you're kind of like, you're very secure in who you are. And you're like, and that's what Gary was saying. He's like, in your 40s, that's when you hit your prime. He's like, you really start accelerating in your 40s.
Yeah, you really, again, in my journey, in my 40s, I became wildly focused on time.
Yeah.
Like, the time is now. It became a major mantra for me in my life. I had a mentor that passed away who was extremely wealthy, and literally watched him pass away, holding my hand and telling me, I just wish I had more time.
Right.
And you're like, whoa, man, all those millions of dollars, they're not going to buy you another minute.
No.
And then I had, my wife and I and my young daughter at the time were on a plane that we had to make a emergency landing. The plane had been filled with smoke, and they were like, brace for impact, get ready, this whole thing. And so those kind of things kind of got me and those happened in my 40s early. And I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know what I want. I'm just going to literally lay out exactly what I want my life to look like. And I'm going to make it happen because I now know I can make it happen.
Yeah.
And that was just a game changer for me. And that was what my 40s were all about was, I got this. Now I just need to decide what I want it to look like because I can execute. I know I can do it now.
So what do you think the 50s will bring?
Legacy. Like, trying to really think about, what are they going to say when you're gone?
Yeah.
Like, how many people can you impact? What's the difference that you can make? Not only in your kids, not only in your family, but, your community, your online community, your there's, to me, it's now I'm at a place where I never thought I would be referred to as the OG in this industry. Like I can remember being the young guy, like you are, right? Like right now, like, I mean, he's the hot guy. Like I was that guy. I remember being it. And,
now you're the
I never thought I would
vet.
be like, I'll go on stage. No, this guy's the OG. I'm like, hey, can we stop? And like, can we just not say that? And, but I've kind of, I've gotten to a place where I'm like, okay, like I've taught a lot of people how to do this. I've created some impact. There's definitely people I've had an impact on their life, and their families will be different because of maybe some stuff that I've shared with them or the thing. And to me, that's just kind of cool. And I think about that a lot more and try to be just much more intentional about doing things that not only from a financial perspective, but equally, like really, really pouring into people and trying to look. Ed Milet's one of my really good friends, and I'll never forget. He said this to me one day, because he and I are about the same age, and he made a comment to me. He's like, we're at a place in our lives now where this is the kind of stuff you got to think about, and the ripple effect. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, well, just think about it like this: your father, was inside of a really big grocery chain. He was an executive in Dallas. And then he left and bought his own grocery stores in your teens. And so you sitting there working in those grocery stores, got to see it all, you got the front row seat at what it looks like to be an entrepreneur, which equipped you to where by the time you're 30, you're running a $2 billion a year business.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here, you've impacted millions of people. None of it would have happened if your dad hadn't left and started a grocery store.
Yep.
Like that's a ripple. He's like, literally that one thing that he did, which was all about him. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 30 years down the line, and it's had the effective impact on millions of people through you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool when I think about it. Like, I definitely know there's some entrepreneurs that I've helped shape them, make them better, drive them. Their families will be better, which means their extended families will be better. That to me, that's cool.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I can tell you, I kind of had that realization with my dad as well. He came from the Philippines as an immigrant and worked for a gas station, ended up opening up his own convenience store. So like I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, even though I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I was like a baseball player. And I remember he would always tell me, he was like, Ryan, my dad, he had 12 brothers and sisters in the Philippines.
Wow. Big family.
And his dad was an entrepreneur. And the only thing was he saw his dad once a year. And he was like, I saw my dad once a year growing up. He was always out on meeting politicians and in different places, and he would come to see us once a year.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even think about, like, it was just never it occurred to me that this was like such a crazy thing, but he would tell me that while I was young. He was like, I'm always going to be here for you. And so he did. He opened up his own business, and he came to every baseball game, every practice, like drove me to school, like everything you could imagine, like the exact opposite of his dad. And it made me like just think about what it is I wanted to do. And like, he ended up losing it all in 2008. He lost his convenience store. He lost, everything. And, I think about it and like why I'm such a proponent of the wealthy way and family time and everything. I'm like, because my dad imparted that on me of like, that is how you raise your children. And he didn't want anyone to go through what he went through with his dad, a rich, ultra successful entrepreneur who never saw his family.
Yeah.
And, I think we both have shared that sentiment today of like, man, I mean, that's what it's all about. And if like not you, but whoever's listening, decides to make the mistakes you made in your 20s, like it has a ripple on, your legacy.
Yeah.
And so I think about that a lot in what I'm doing.
And I mean, I think you're in a unique position, brother, that through your social channels, through building a tribe at such a young age, and a lot of right place, right time, making the most of the opportunity. Like you have the ability to learn from others through interview, like probably better than most, right? Because you're putting yourself in a situation where you get to have conversations with people like Cardone and me and others, and take that information and implement it really quickly in your own life. And, you know, to be in a place to where you can have that kind of epiphany at such a young age, right? Where you don't have to get to 50 to kind of understand, and have such a focus on your family, and have such a focus, like, you know that they're secure, and building a real business, and, you know, owning real assets and creating real cash flow for yourself. Like, those are things that, you know, most guys, you know, when I was your age, you know, my 30s, I wasn't there, right? I was just trying to build back. Yeah. And I applaud you, man, for putting yourself in that situation, and you know, paying attention, because you're right. Like, you know, I say it all the time. Look, I believe I've gone through the things I've gone through in my life, so others don't have to. I firmly believe that. Whether that is losing a big business, going through a divorce, you know, almost being in a plane crash, having a mentor die while holding my hand, and these things shaped me, and these are the stories in my journey that I share with as many people as I can, so they don't have to go through that. Because I think the faster you can get to kind of what you're like, the faster you can have the awakening, and just get busy, like go get what you deserve. What's the nobility in waiting?
There's none.
Like, why would you wait?
I don't know. Fear.
Fear is like people wait. Like, people do it all the time. You see them, I see them. We talk to them all the time. Oh, I'll get to it next week, next month. I'm not going to make this investment right now. I'll come back to you and do it next quarter. No, you won't. No, you won't.
How long you been saying that?
Let's just be honest. Like, let's just be honest with yourself. Own it. Own the outcome. But don't sit here and do that. Like, you get a choice of what your life looks like, and either you want or you don't.
Your life is going to be the same 3 months from now. So you can decide now.
And so I think it's cool that, you know, you understand what it looks like to move with intentionality, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, bro. And I appreciate, you know, everything you've done paving the way. You know, I appreciate you, you know, coming to speak at WealthCon, and, you know, everything you're doing for entrepreneurs like myself who consider you the OG, and
had to get it in there.
Just following, you know, like I said, in your footsteps, and trying to learn from everything you've done and what you are now, you know, going into, and trying to understand why you do what you do. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. You guys, make sure you follow Kent. You're everywhere: IG, YouTube, TikTok, like we mentioned. So great guy to follow, great guy to know. Obviously, just absolutely crushing it in real estate and business. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Cool. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
If you buy one house every year, after year 5, you just sell the one you bought 5 years ago, and now you make $100,000 a year forever. But I worry what happens when the market shifts dramatically, and a bunch of us start going bankrupt. My income has gone to almost nothing, but I also spend a ridiculous amount of money.
What do you spend a month?
$80K.
$80K?
Yeah. But here's the bigger reason why I don't care. Because at any moment,